Hi friends, this is Tina and welcome to a new YouTube video. In this video I'm going to be setting up my last pages for October, which includes my 3 last weekly spreads. Before we get into the weekly spreads, I just want to thank you guys for the amazing support on my latest October Plan With Me video. I'm absolutely blown away by all the new followers and over 80,000 views. I was able to monetize my videos already because of you guys, and I'm so happy you like what I'm creating. If you didn't watch my October Plan With Me video yet, I will have it linked in my cards and in the description down below so you can check it out. Lately, I have really loved Dutch Door weeklies and spreads in general, so I decided to start with that here. I had more than 20 hours of footage for my last video, so I definitely wanted to take a bit more relaxed take on some of these weeklies to avoid getting tens of hours of footage this time. If you watch my September weekly spreads video, you know I used the same kind of layout last month, but I just really liked it. I made this horizontal Dutch door by cutting the page really close to the center with scissors and a craft knife, while being super careful not to cut the binding thread. I'm this time including only 1 week into this whole Dutch door, so I have a lot of writing space each day. I normally cut this kind of footage out of my finished video, but I wanted to give you a little tip for painting in your notebooks. Since this time I painted quite many of my paintings to the edge of the page, I decided to use washi tape on the other side of the page as well. I've learned this hack the painful way, since many times I've gotten the paint on the other spread, and that's really not an ideal situation. So I just taped down all the edges of the pages that were on the opposite side of my painting, and after the painting was done I removed the washi and all my spreads stayed nice and clean. I also used a random piece of paper under my page so I wouldn't get any unwanted blobs of paint anywhere. About the painting I made in this Dutch door spread. I just graded these rows of autumnal trees with orange gouache. I wanted to keep it very simple. I don't think they even look that much like trees, but the page still looks good and I was able to keep it very simple as that was my initial plan. For some reason I was really tired while painting this piece, and even though the painting is simple, I paused during my painting so many times that it just ended up taking way too long to make it. I even just left my home sweater on while filming because I didn't want to dress up at all because I was so tired. I feel like the gloomy and rainy and just the autumnal weather has made me very sleepy. Also, the days are getting darker and darker, and that always affects my mood every single year. I painted some very harsh shadows to the bottom of the tree lines and used this stippling or dotting technique in all of my paintings this month as usual. I've gotten some questions about what brushes I use to create such small details, and I always use my Arteza detail brushes for those. I have tried many small brushes I've bought from art stores, but none of them have been as small or as good as the Arteza detail brushes I own. They are sold as a set and have many different small brushes included, and in my opinion are very affordable and good quality, so I can highly recommend them to you if you like painting and are missing some small brushes from your own collection. As always, I use my Mellow Days Reverie notebook, some gouache tubes from Winsor & Newton and Royal Talents. finished with painting, I drew some small birds flying in the sky with my Pigma P and fine liner. I used these little craft paper circles as my daily headers, and like with my September weekly spreads, I glued them in a way that they almost pop out of the Dutch door. When I glued the circles to the other sides of the Dutch door, I had to flip the page to make sure the circles were placed exactly under the ones on top. Now the first weekly spread is done and we can proceed to the next one. This layout is inspired by another talented artist, Hannah Maria Plants, and I will link her Instagram account down below so you can check out her art. I struggled so much with this spread and painting. I wanted to paint a forest scene with a cabin and decided to paint some ground to the bottom of the page, but it just didn't work like I wanted, so even though I spent like half an hour painting it, I covered it up later. I was actually so close to giving up with this one and just glue my whole spread together, but I'm happy I didn't. Even though I always talk about patience and going through the ugly stage of a painting process, I still sometimes surprise myself with how much I feel like giving up and just starting all over again, even though I know I should just have some patience and continue with my painting. My initial idea of this painting was a lot different from what it became in the end. I painted a cabin that's very similar to my cover page, and I used very similar techniques with the background too, so I guess this is almost like my cover page but from a different angle and with some small changes. I lost some footage here when I was shading the bushes, but I always just added some darker color to the bottom of the blob, and then with a little bit of water on my brush I blended the colors together a tiny bit. Then I again took my small detail brush and started the really time-consuming dotting again. Overall, I think this is a very easy technique, but like I said, very time-consuming. I just used the lighter color mostly in the upper part of the blob and darker in the bottom just to create some dimension with shadows and highlights. I wanted to include this little snippet of real-time footage so you can actually see how slowly I work with this technique. By the way, make sure to follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. I'm posting pictures of my bullet journal many times a week, and I'm also posting some other painting content, such as my Pantone paintings there, so if you like my content here, you will like my Instagram post as well. I have the same username there as I have here on YouTube. Many of you have also asked about some possible painting tutorials and tips, and I'm definitely planning on creating those kinds of videos on my channel, and I've had that idea in mind for a long time now actually. Sadly, many times I feel tired and almost burned out after spending hours and hours creating, filming and editing even just my monthly setups, so it sometimes feels very hard to do other videos. I just have to find the best way to create more content for you guys, since I also just really want to make some painting tutorials. I have to find some new motivation and inspiration somewhere, and maybe just change my routines a little bit so it's easier to approach making new content. If there's any other video ideas you have in mind that you would like to see from me, you can just leave them down below. I would really appreciate any recommendations or ideas. I covered the bottom of the painting with some of these bigger blobs again, and instead of the dotting, I made some of these grass-like strokes just to make it more lively and realistic. This was so fun to make and also took way less time. I'm just doing the exact same steps as in my cover page painting, so I'm sorry I'm repeating myself. I took some light watercolor swatches with green and yellow, so the same colors I painted the greenery, and added some light washes of color for the smoke, and after painted on top with white gouache. Doing this works so much better than just leaving the base white because you get so much more dimension and shadows by doing this simple step. I made sure my brush was pretty dry when adding the white gouache so it doesn't cover all the color below. I also painted some areas later with darker shade to add a bit more shadows. Since the spread is already so full after painting this huge picture, I wanted to do something simple with my dailies. I just painted these circle headers for each day with my moth wing named Archer and Olive Acrylograph. I tried to see if I could write the days of the week in a simple cursive font, but I feel like the page was a bit too busy and I just went with a super minimalistic letter next to the circle. I'm so happy I continued and actually finished this spread because it really didn't turn out that bad at all. But let's go and set up my last weekly spread, which took the absolute least amount of time and also probably became my favorite out of all these three. I made this really fun box layout for August in my bullet journal that had the artwork in the upper left corner and some craft paper in the right side, and I just really liked that layout, so I found a way to include it in my October setup as well. Sometimes I like to balance things out, and after a painting heavy spread I definitely needed to just go and do a quick spread and painting that still looks pretty. This one actually just took an hour to make, while the other ones took from 3 to 4 hours, I think. I know my theme includes some cabins, and for these weeklies I just painted one, but it was surprisingly hard to come up with any ideas for paintings with cabins in them, so I took a more relaxed approach and painted something I really just enjoyed. For this small painting, I made something similar to my playlist painting in my October setup and just painted a cozy and warm autumnal birch forest with many orange shades. These kind of landscapes just speak to me in a different level because birch forests are very common here in Finland, and I would like to think this scenery is from a forest near me or something. Since painting this piece took less time than my other paintings, I wanted to slow the footage down a bit more so you could see my process better. After being scared that my previous video was too long for you guys, I got so many lovely comments saying that you like longer videos and like watching my painting process, so I know I don't need to worry about the length of my videos anymore. I think this painting is definitely a pretty easy and beginner level one, so even if you haven't painted much, you could try this one for sure. I used the same dotting technique for the ground, but since it's not the most important part of this piece, I wasn't too precise or careful with that and instead focused more on the trees. I would suggest looking at real pictures of birch trees so you understand the patterns a bit, but I would also recommend not copying them from a real picture and instead just going with your own feeling and winging it. I used a lighter shade of mixed gray and brown paints for the first layer of the patterns and then just also blended them a little bit with water. Lastly, I took a darker shade and added some definition on top of the already created details. I really love painting these trees and I'm almost sad I didn't use birch trees as my whole theme for October. After painting, I just used my Muji gel pen to write the days of the week and dates on my boxes. We are soon getting to the end of this video, but I'm just quickly going to do a little flip through of all the spreads I made in this video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this one, make sure to subscribe to my channel, leave thumbs up, and maybe leave your favorite autumnal emoji in the comments if you're still here. I hope to see you in my next one. Bye bye!